Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, sliding through another program. Welcome back. We're going to be talking about 8 heat-proof spinach substitutes. Many of us grow spinach each year, but we have the problem where very early on in the season, things are good and we get a warm spell and things go haywire and the spinach begins to bolt as the day length gets longer as well. So we're going to talk about several substitutes. Now, when I say substitute, it's just like in school. The substitute is not nearly as good as the main teacher, okay? So these substitutes are not nearly as good as spinach. However, they are a close second and third and fourth, however you want to go about doing it, with the spinach itself. Now, there are some more tolerable spinaches that are good for climates that are warmer than spinach is accustomed to grow in. So that's something to look at. Now, typically, you want to plant your spinach about 4 to 6 weeks before your last spring frost. Begin sowing that spinach every 1 to 2 weeks so you can have a succession. And then 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost in the autumn is a good time to begin sowing that spinach variety in which you like and getting some in the fall as well. So you get 2 crops in the year. So long-standing, there's hybrid varieties that are more tolerable to the heat, and there's some open-pollinated varieties that are good heat-tolerable spinaches that you can save the seeds on. The hybrids you don't want to save the seeds on. So let's go over some of these spinach substitutes that you may be able to sneak in to your family's meals, and they would not know that it wasn't true spinach.
I don't think a lot of people are dying to have spinach anyway, when, sometimes if you have younger children, but that's okay.
I like fresh spinach.
I like spinach
okay.
too, but I'm just saying, I don't know if you have to necessarily sneak it in. I don't think anybody's like, oh, we don't have spinach, and maybe they can try something new. So Swiss Chard comes in a number of varieties. It's actually related to the beet. If you ever grow Swiss Chard, you'll see it looks a lot like the seed, looks a lot like beets. But it's a nice leafy vegetable. And I think it holds up a little bit better than spinach when it comes to cooking.
It's more of a thicker leaf.
It's a thicker leaf, yeah. I think it just has a little bit more of a structure to the leaf, if anything. But it's not like a bad thickness. It's not like you have to chew more like an oak leaf versus a maple leaf. It just has a little bit more structure to it. And when we talk about, we're not talking about the stem. There is what you mentioned. There's yellow, there's burgundy, there's white stemmed Swiss chard. Some people believe that certain colors grow quicker than the others. We plant a smorgasbord of the Swiss chard in there's clusters of it, and it works very well. A side note, while we're talking about Swiss chard, something additionally you can do that you can't do with spinach is you can make Swiss chard cheese burritos. You can do that on the grill, you can do that on the stove, you can do that in the microwave. What is that for people who are not familiar with the procedure of what that is? You take your leaf of your Swiss chard. You want to use a nice size leaf for this. And what you do is you take that leaf, in the middle of the leaf, you just sprinkle some, you can use shredded cheese or just some thinly sliced cheese, and you roll it up, you put a toothpick through it, and you can grill it or just kind of cook it over a pan real quick. It melts fast, and it kind of wilts the Swiss chard a little bit in a good way, and then it makes a nice little appetizer.
Yeah, if your center stem is too thick, you want to remove that and then use the side leaf structure. But yeah, cheese burrito, you can use whatever you want for that. Another thing is a substitute for spinach is beet greens.
Now, yeah, you can use beet greens. To me, they taste a little bit more earthier than a Swiss chard or spinach.
This is more of when they're middle to baby to
more
mid.
Like tender.
Yeah, not tender. Like at harvest time, let's try to utilize the whole plant. Yeah, but yeah, it is a thicker leaf and it doesn't have that same characteristic flavor, I guess, is what would be palatable flavor.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the beet greens. None of this stuff tastes exactly like spinach or anything, but it is a nice green.
I think Swiss chard is probably the closest. Anything you can do with spinach, you can do with Swiss chard across the board. These other ones are a little more intertwined.
Greens. I don't think it really. Yeah, I think you're just going for something that looks the same or feels the same, whatever. So kale is very popular among a lot of people. It's a leafy green. There's different varieties of kale. There's red kales. There's ornamental kales. There's regular kales. There's dinosaur.
Now,
kales.
Can you eat an ornamental kale?
I think you can.
Yeah, and just because a vegetable or a fruit or whatever says it's ornamental, doesn't mean it's not able to be consumed. They're all safe to eat. It's just the society or the nurseries or whatever you want to call it tricks you into thinking, oh, it's ornamental, can't be consumed. It certainly can be.
So kale is a very hardy plant. So your spinach, if you plant it, say in the fall, it's going to die off after a frost. Kale will live through a frost and sometimes get sweeter.
And through a freeze in some instances. Mm-hmm. But you have some very different varieties. You have Russian red kale, you've got scarlet kale, you've got curly kale, you've got dinosaur kale. You've got a lot of different selections when it comes to the type of kale in which you want to grow. Then you have New Zealand spinach, which is an actual spinach, and it can handle the heat. However, it's not quite like spinach, especially whenever it gets mature, it can get more bitter to a certain degree. So, you can always get that. You can transplant, you can start at 2 to 3 weeks before your last frost date because it is not frost tolerable like spinach, regular spinach is. Regular spinach can't handle a hard freeze. It's a little frost tolerable, but this New Zealand spinach is not tolerable of frost at all. You'll kill it. So you want to wait until the frost is over and then plant it. At a young plant, it's very good, but it gets bitter whenever it gets mature. But it can kind of shrub up a little bit. So keep that in mind when it comes to selecting New Zealand spinach.
So then there's also your typical greens like collard greens or turnip greens or even mustard greens. Those are good alternatives. I don't know if you necessarily eat those raw. I know they're typically cooked. So that's one thing that's different about not people will eat spinach raw. Greens are typically cooked and cooked down, and then there's some sort of flavor added to them to help